I'm actually looking at the Q&A as I go, so I should be able to pick up some questions as we go along. I think need to reinforce that we already said it in the morning, all the sessions are mandatory. So there's no session that you'd say, because I'm not doing this, I'm going to drop off or I won't join. You need to attend all the sessions, please, because the context that you get from each and every one of them makes the program as a whole worth completing. And even if you're a data engineer, you need to know where the handoff exists between you and cloud engineering, vice versa. So be mindful to attend all the sessions, please. Okay. And we'll keep them as interesting as we possibly can. Now, this session looks at cloud engineering from a very, very, very high level. It does then mean that there are certain things that would not be mentioned. We'll just probably going to look at what kind of roles or what kind of responsibilities do we see within cloud engineering, as well as what kind of tools and techniques that is involved. That's what we're basically looking at in the session this afternoon. And I think I have up until the next 20 or 30 minutes to do that. So I'm going to run very fast. And my preference is always go fast, take questions. Okay. So let's flip to the first one. The first slide talks about, can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. That one. So it talks about breaking down cloud engineering into the various roles that we see within cloud engineering. And I know some of you might, when I start describing some of these, you would say, oh, I do a mix of this and that. Of course, there's no single role that is clearly designed to be fully self-contained. Whatever role you're doing, whether you're a project manager or you're a systems engineer, you'll always find yourself doing certain things from other roles. So there's a bit of borrowing and choosing. So on the screen, we see a cloud architect, a cloud software engineer, a cloud security engineer, a cloud systems engineer, and a cloud network engineer. And they've been paradigmed to follow some of the planets in the solar system. I think I would ditch the planets analogy and I'll just go straight talking to what I see those roles as doing. And also, if you think of other roles that you think, oh, why are they not listed here? They may already be covered by what you see on the screen. So feel free to ask those questions in the chat as we go along. Now, cloud architect, who is being described as farthest from the sun, but it's far away from earth. But a cloud architect mostly would do the job of design. As a cloud architect, you understand of the tools, the techniques, the services, the components within cloud. And your job is to bring those together in a combined way to solve problems, okay? To solve them, to deliver solutions to the customer. So a lot of design work, but not a lot of hands-on work. And this is why the paradigm they're saying furthest planet away. Now, cloud software engineering, on the other hand, has to do with writing code that either creates, automates, or allow cloud services to be executed. So, for example, as a cloud software engineer, you might find yourself writing pieces of code that creates an infrastructure. So that might be creating a virtual machine or starting a virtual service in the cloud, or even code that automates things as simple as making systems that already are up and running work together, or bringing them into visibility. So it's a lot to do with writing code, but those code is specific to making cloud services, systems, or components work as expected to be. And cloud security engineer, on the other hand, and I tend to pause when engineer is mentioned in these job descriptions. It is not mentioned as a title to be born. It is mentioned more as to tell you that there's a bit of thinking, a bit of creativity that needs to come to it. Okay, a bit of problem solving. Engineers are generally, wherever I see an engineer, they're all about problem solving, thinking, and creativity, and bringing solutions. That's what those engineering is appended to each of those. So as a cloud security engineer, you will be focused on what keeps the cloud secure. and how do I bring together different pieces, services, and components of the cloud to ensure that security is very important, right? Well, the paradigm you're saying is the smallest one. I probably would agree with that to an extent, but it is nonetheless as important, or even probably more important, than some of the roles that you see on the screen. So you're thinking of things like you've got a service now, and you've got people's data within this service, because you need to give this service to the people. Let's assume you've got people's name, date of birth, you've got their location, their addresses, their pictures, their biometrics like fingerprints and iris scans and so on. How do you make sure that these things don't get misused, get out into the wrong hands, right? Those are some of the thoughts of a cloud security engineer. A cloud systems engineer, on the other hand, will be looking at, as different from software engineer, and I'll try to create that distinction. We'll be looking at, okay, how do we make the different systems interwork together to deliver solutions? And when you look at the way cloud works today, it's different from the way we used to do it traditionally back then. If you're lucky enough to have been around back in the days when we did these things, you had most things physical, and you could point, you could go to a room somewhere and say, this is the server, or this is the machine on which I am running XYZ application, or this website is running on XYZ machine in this data center somewhere. Now on the cloud, you don't see these things, they're all virtual. And the systems engineer has that task of making sure that you can understand how all of this interwork together to deliver services. Now, while the software engineer might write script and software to provision these systems, the system engineer focuses more on how the systems themselves work and how to make sure that they are reliable and resilient. Cloud network engineer, not too different from what your actual network engineering would be, which is looking at connectivity mainly. Okay, if you think about the fact that as you're listening to me now, you're listening from a device somewhere, your mobile phone, your laptop, or whatever other device you're listening to me from, how did you get that connectivity for us to start to talk about to start to hear and talk to each other? That's networking. Okay, each of these services in the cloud will run in different devices. They'll run in different data centers. There is not, so Amazon Web Service, for example, is not a single place. It's a collection of data centers spread around. Connectivity has to be established to make these services work together. Okay, and that's the focus of a cloud network engineer. There's a lot that goes into this other than just connectivity, but I keep it simple so that we understand it at that level. Okay. Now, moving on from the roles, let's quickly see some of the services, the tools, the techniques that are used. Can we move to the next slide, please? So on the next slide, we see some of the things that cloud engineering will be focused on. So let me just pick one or two of them. I probably will not go through all because of time. So operating systems like Linux. Okay, Linux is not the only operating systems cloud engineers look at today, but Linux is probably the most popular when it comes to anything services and servers on the cloud. However, a lot of services still need to make use of, and people still need to make use of Windows. So I often remind us, don't just kick Windows out of the door. It's still very, very much in use. They have to look at databases, and I know someone was saying I'm on the data engineering part. Should I drop off? You'd be surprised to see that cloud engineers have to look at databases, not to the extent that the data engineers may, but they have to look at that too. Obviously, programming, that's really, really important. You have things like containerization, things like DevOps, which we talked about earlier this morning. I've talked about networking already from the previous slide. So all of these are the things that cloud engineers will be looking at and thinking of. In terms of skills, I would call out skills like problem solving, creative thinking, solution focused mindset. All of that are the sort of skills cloud engineers want. And of course, hands-on, being able to deep dive into the problems when necessary. You have to know enough. In the cloud space today, I don't expect people to know everything there is about what is within each aspect of cloud services. But you kind of need to know enough that you can deep dive into whatever you need to to deep dive into as at when the need for it arises. Web services and API is a very important part. I think today you're not going to do a lot without being very conversant of web services and APIs. API stands for application programming interfaces. And what web services actually are, they're mainly APIs really. So I won't say web services and APIs. I would say just think of them as web services all together. And what those do is they give you the ability to write your code in such a way that you can refer to those code from multiple different endpoints. So if give you a practical example, if I was going to deliver a service that allows you to check what the time is, very simple service. You ask it what is the time, it tells you the time is 1:23 or 2:23, depending on where you are listening to this from. It will make sense for me to be able to reach out to that service on my laptop, on my mobile phone, or even on my smart devices in the house, like smart TVs and so on. A web service will allow you to package that solution in such a way that it will be easy for you to use it across multiple devices like that. We'll be seeing more and more, and we'll even try our hands on some web services and APIs as we proceed with the academy over the next few months. So that brings to end what I wanted to cover from 10,000 feet, looking at cloud engineering. What I would do, keep the slide steady. Thank you. What I'm going to do is quickly go through the if there are any questions that have been asked whilst I was talking through all of that, and try and cover that off. Now, again, I see people raising their hands. At the beginning of the session, I lowered some hands. We are not going to call on you if you're raising your hands. Put your hands down, put your question in the Q&A session, and we'll try and pick it up from there. Okay. Right. This is me running very, very quickly through the questions. And Bolanle, you need to tell me when to stop because of time. Okay. Just jump in and let me know when I can stop. Right. I missed the morning session. Is there a recap? You answered that. And that recap will be on the YouTube channels, which will be shared across later on. Can you share the webinar session recording in the morning? That same question, I've answered that. How crucial is cloud engineering to my product management journey? It is quite crucial that you have a good understanding. If you are going to be a product manager, this cohort doesn't cover that. And I mean, correct me, Juwon, if I've missed that, or any other person. This cohort doesn't cover that practice, product management. But as a product manager, you need to have good understanding of cloud engineering. You don't have to become hands-on on it, but you need to know enough to be able to put together a conversation and put together the important things you need to deliver your product, because most products today are cloud-based products. So it's really important that you have good understanding of cloud engineering. Another question, what about the code that was said that it would be displayed at the end of the session? We'll come back to that one later on. Bola, please mark that for answering later. Can I get a job after this program? This question keeps haunting me. I don't know why. Well, I can't predict the future, but what I can say to you is you would become at least 2 times more employable at the end of this program if, and that's a big if you put the work that's required from you in. Okay. I think Abraham Lincoln is the one that said opportunity meeting preparation is what people call luck, right? Luck happens when opportunity meets preparation. So there are countless opportunities to find jobs, but are you ready? That's often the question. And I think this program would get you ready to be even much more employable than you ever before you joined. Okay. Question is data engineering going to be discussed this afternoon? I don't believe so. I believe data engineering is tomorrow. Is that correct? Bolanle or Juwon, is that correct?
Yes, you're very correct.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow, data engineering. But again, to recap, Michael, you have to attend all of the sessions this week, not just the data engineering session. Now, question, please, those of us that couldn't attend morning session, again, YouTube already answered that. There's a relationship between cloud engineering, data science, data analysis, AI, and robotics. So, Andrew, yes, there is indeed a relationship across all of that, but I'll be doing you a big disservice if I answer that question here and now. I would ask you to Google the question, right? Do some research around those items you've mentioned. And when you've got your answer, I'm happy to discuss in detail what you found. So cloud engineering, data science, data analysis, AI and robotics, a bit of research, see what relationships exist between them. Your voice echoing and cracking, apologies if you're getting echoes and cracks, is a big event and there's so many people attending. I guess every now and then the network will play up. So apologies to those that are facing that. Okay. Code to be shared after each session being asked. We'll come back to that. Okay. YouTube channel will be sent to you. I think what is most important is make sure you are in the Slack, Still Academy Slack channel. That's super important because any other thing will be shared on that channel. If you're not on that channel, you need to get yourself added to it. Look through your inbox. There'll be an invite at some point to join. And if it's not there, please put it in the chat window. We'll get to you and add you up. Okay. I can't see the slide. Is it meant to be that way? No, it's not. You're meant to see the slides. So if you've joined through any device and you can't see the slide, please check if you've joined properly. Try joining on a laptop first to see. If you still have the problem, then let us know. Okay. So that's about 2 people saying they can't see the slide, or 3 people, 4, 5. Yeah, I think the slide is up now. If you still can't see it, let us know. Okay. Okay, just scrolling through the question. Okay, I think lots and lots of people worried about not seeing the slide. It's back there up now. If you can't still see it, let us know.
Blessing, I don't mean to actually. All right, I think
Mhm.
the time is almost up. Able to take
Okay.
some questions
Okay.
later.
So yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for that. We'll take other questions later. Thank you, Bolanle.
Yes. Thank you very much, Blessing. Thank you very much for that. If you have other questions, please keep those questions in mind, and most of them will definitely be answered in the course of the session. All right, Jumo. Over to you.
All right, thank you, Bolande. 1 second, please. Okay. Blessing, I think you just bought yourself some additional minutes to answer more questions while we prep for the next person that is going to speak.
Thank you.
Blessing,
I'm already also answering. Yeah, I'm also answering them on the chat window. So yeah, okay. How many more minutes do you think? 5?
Yeah, five.
Okay. Right. Okay. So let me run through more. What if we only want to specialize on a specific aspect of cloud engineering, for instance, cloud security? Yes, that's absolutely fine. Nothing stops you from doing that. Most of the materials we'll give you would allow you to build from whatever level you are up onto the level that you want to get to. Okay. It's actually fine if you want to specialize. You can do that. Um, no one has attended to my question. That's come from Kosiso Chuku. Now, Kosiso, if I scroll past your question, put it back at the bottom and I'll catch it up soon. How important is it to know different cloud platform, or is one enough? I think it start from one, okay, and once you understand enough, spread to others. It's quite important that you know a bit more than one in today's climate, because most companies are going multi-cloud, right? However, you can't, I wouldn't say just go out there and try to learn all at once. It wouldn't help you. Remember, the bottom line is don't get yourself overwhelmed. Okay. If you're starting with Amazon, begin, you're fine. You're going to find out anything that you find in AWS, for example, is also there in Azure, is also there in Google and any other cloud service provider. They may call it slightly different name, but they are all there. So pick one to start with, and when you get familiar enough and you get confident enough, add more on. Okay, don't rush through. Question: how can cloud engineering assist me in my cybersecurity career journey? I think, Wally, we would have to ask a further question on that. What do you define as your cybersecurity career journey? Because these terms mean different things to different people. I can tell you for sure, cloud engineering would assist you in that journey, but in what aspect and to what extent needs further conversation on. So hold on to that question and bring it when we go into the next few weeks and we can discuss that in detail. I'm a data analyst with my knowledge. What do you think I should focus on, cloud or data engineering? That choice is entirely up to you, Elizabeth. Have a feel for both of them. Fill out the one that you think calls out to you more. It's easier to do things you enjoy doing than to do things that you struggle with. So already being a data analyst, you might think the answer is obvious. Maybe not. Okay. Fill out both of them. You've got a taste of what cloud engineering is at 10,000 feet today. Tomorrow you see what data engineering is at 10,000 feet. Over the course of the week, certain things will appeal to you. Give each of them a go and settle for the one you want. Okay. Is there a difference between cloud computing versus cloud engineering? Right. So semantically speaking, yes, you can find differences between those. And I think I said it at the beginning of my of my description that engineering is being placed next to some of those roles to call out the fact that you will need to be able to solve problems, to be creative, to bring solutions, and to get some hands-on problem solving within the role. Okay, cloud computing is generic. It describes everything to do with cloud services and components. But cloud engineering is specific to how you produce solutions in that big space of cloud computing. Okay. Thank you. When you mention APIs with example for checking time, can it be likened to simply a programming function or a procedure for checking a time? Indeed, it can be. But the difference between these, having it as a specific API, is the fact that it can be reused. Okay, it can be reused several times. If you just think of your programming function and you write it and you can only use it once, yeah, you can't call it from another um, device or another component or another form of program, then it's not an API. An API is meant to be reusable, and you see more practical examples. You'll even be able to do some as we go on. Joe, how are we doing? Okay.
I think
At the end of
we've run out of time, I think, for that
okay,
session.
let me
Well,
take this one. This
guys,
one is
Blessing
very
is going to be
simple.
okay.
Let me take this very simple last one. It's very, very simple. At the end of the program, what stage of exams can we start from for the certification? You will start from where you are. Those that have not gotten foundation will start with foundation. Those that have gotten foundation will start from the next thing next to where they are. Hope that clarifies. Thank you. Thanks, OJ.
Oh, thank you very much for that. And guys, you're gonna have Blessing throughout this program, so he will be able to answer a lot more questions. Additionally, he likes to take on people directly and mentor. So some of you might get that opportunity for him to also be a mentor for you on this program. We're sort of 6 minutes over the time. I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is from Amazon Web Services. Her name is Sarah. Sarah has been very instrumental to getting CIL Academy, integrating our programs and our courses and our curriculum to align with a lot of the training provided by AWS. And she's been very helpful to our academy as a whole. So we would like her to just spend a few minutes, talk to you guys. You guys will get the chance to ask questions in the Q&A, but just talk about instructor-led courses and instructor-led trainings from AWS. Sarah.
Hello, thank you so much. And that's a great turnout. So thank you so much, team, for organizing this. And I'm very excited to be here today. So yeah, welcome everyone. And I'm very happy to be talking to you a little bit more about AWS. What do we do? What do I do specifically? And I'm going to make it a little bit more fun and fluid. So I'm not going to really bore you with a boring presentation, but I do have one. but I really want it to be a bit more of an open platform for you to ask me any questions. If you have any, if you need any support when it comes to creating your learning path, what do you want to do? Where should you start? And all that kind of support. Please feel free to jump in and ask me any questions as we go along. So with that, let me give you a bit of introduction about myself. So my name is Sarah Matar, and I'm a training partner manager at AWS. And I speak really fast. So again, please stop me if I go as a turbo blazer as we go along. So I've been in AWS for the past 4.5 years now, and I've been in different roles. I was in the direct team, and when I say this is AWS is a big organization, and training is a key component, and we deliver training through so many different ways, platform and mechanism. We have a direct team, but in the same time, we rely very heavily because we're a partner-centric organization. So we rely very heavily on our partners. See, you have OJ here, where they are one of our newly onboarded partners to help us scale. And with the help of our partners, we're able to cover a bit more and scale our programs to different kind of audience, which is similarly to what we do over here today. So with that, just allow me a few seconds and I'm going to share with you a presentation that at first talks to you about the value of training, but this is going to be from an organization's perspective. So it might not be tailored toward an individual, but then halfway through, I will switch to the learning paths that we have under each role and each track, which give you a bit more in depth of where should you be or how do you take your learning forward. So just give me a little bit while I set up. Okay, I'm all here. Let me see. So, OJ, how do I take over sharing screen?
Maybe a
I
button
see. Right.
on
Yeah,
All right.
just put
Yes,
the presenter,
because I'm on the
Sarah.
web. Yeah, I'm on the web. So, all right. Okay. Hopefully I'll be able to share it now. So share screen. I'm blocked temporarily. Unblock it. Okay. Try again now. It doesn't allow me. So can I send it over maybe to you and somebody can help me click through?
Just send it to me.
All right. I'll try one more time. And let me see if this is going to. All right. I think it worked. Does it work right now? Do you see my screen?
Yes, it's coming up. Yep, that's it.
All right. All right. Yes. So here we go. So as a main part, so cloud skill gap is basically the main reason why AWS has a training and certification. So just to give you a bit of a background, our TNC organization is literally less than 10 years old. I think we just literally made it to 10 years initially this year. And I can tell you that we are such a young team. So initially when the inception of AWS, it was mainly around services and nobody really thought of the enablement or basically how do we address the skill gap or provide the skill knowledge and the cloud skills knowledge within those countries where we have our customers in. And this is basically based on a study that 85% of leaders reported the shortage in the workforce skills is what basically we need to capitalize on when it comes to their cloud investment. So it's not really them moving into the cloud. It's not them going into a whole digital transformation. More of like they need to address the gap when it comes to the shortage of skills because this is what's really hindering them from successfully migrating or fully digitization, which I think, this is what teachers are doing as an academy is enabling you or creating or being part of solving that issue by creating the future skills that can then be later on embedded within those organizations. So AWS, we provide and authorize AWS's content. And basically what this content mean is that we provide this, we we provide the skills and the know-hows throughout our instructors or the authorized instructors that our partners have to upskill and enable our customers on their clouds or on the services that they're basically procuring from our side. So it's giving them the knowledge of how can they better enhance and utilize the services that they are using on AWS. And through that, through a study, an organization that is basically equipped with the right skills and with the right training has proven to increase their innovation by 88%. And when it comes to their migration rates and the rates of, the speed of the migration, it's up to between 30 to 50%, sorry. And then when it comes to the employees retention, it's scored between 10 to 35%. And we have different kind of offerings when it comes to the AWS and how do we go to the market. So basically we have digital training, which is over 500 online free of cost training. And now we've we've launched our skill builder, which is AWS owned LMS, and you guys can sign up to it as a on a say on an individual subscription, and it gives you access to thousands and thousands of AWS approved curriculum, lab access, gamified approach of learnings, and so on. So this is one way. And then we do have the classroom-based training, and this is an instructor-led. So basically where we have an instructor who's an approved authorized AWS instructor, because we do want to control the quality, and we do want to control that when it comes to providing our content, only an approved and AWS authorized instructor is able to go to the market with that, which is a very huge um, requirement from our side. So basically, not anybody can deliver the training, and they have to go through at least a 3 to 4 weeks, month long of a program to get them ramped up and authorized to deliver this program. And then we have the education program, which I think is similar to what we have today. Is those are more geared towards the unconventional learners, so they're not really targeted towards business to business customers. Those are more like learners, students, university leavers, the unemployed, career movers that want to move from one single field to another. These are what we call them the educational program, because those are more focused towards creating a different kind of a demand or the future generation of the AWS skills within the market. And lastly, we have a certification, which is basically getting accredited. So you go into a classroom, you learn, and you want to put basically your knowledge into accreditation. You partake into the exam, and all goes well, you pass and you become AWS certified, which is basically the most important part for an individual learner. Because when we're looking at from a business to business, or an organization that's upskilling their own staff, the main KPI of why do they want to upskill them is basically for them to get the knowledge and the know-how of how to better innovate on the clouds that they're using. But however, for an individual, the main KPI is actually to be certified, because you want to get the accreditation that later on will be very highly beneficial for you when you apply for jobs or when you want to go into the cloud field. So yeah, so moving on, digital training is basically onto our skill builder, as I said. So you're going to be learning directly from AWS expert. It's 500 plus free digital courses. It's available in multiple languages because it's localized content, and it basically takes you through different learning paths based on the plans or the roles or the solution that you're looking for when it comes to the AWS. And this is the website to do so. And there are different kind of subscription. There is an individual subscription, and there is a team subscription that's more geared towards the organization. And when it comes to our classroom training, it's basically a live, instructor-led, as I said, that is designed around your business goals. Because the beauty of having an instructor who's delivering those classes is that he can actually customize or modularize the training based on the audience need. Because it's more lively, it's more dynamic and in demand, so he's able to guide or basically to go through the training and focus it more around what is the impact or what's the KPI that the individual or the company is looking for out of this training. This can be done either in a real live classroom setting, or it can be similar to what we have today, virtual, as long as we have an authorized instructor who's available to deliver that training. And this is basically what I want to spend a little bit more time talking to you about. It's our certification paths, where in the very beginning, we start with the foundation level. So this is basically our cloud practitioner, and this is the very minimum level 100 basic say offering from when it comes to our certification, and it kind of requires a minimum of 6 month fundamental or industry, like I said, training, but more of a knowledge. Because the way the exams are now currently being shifted towards, it's not really theoretical anymore. So it's not a matter of you attending the class, reading through the content, and then you'll be able to immediately answer the exam. Now it's more around, we want to make sure that our students actually go into the AWS's console, be more hands on, play around with it and actually use it, because it's more of a dynamic and it's more of um, live cases scenario. So it's more of like, a hands-on kind of training rather than just you memorizing something out of a text. So cloud practitioner comes at first, and to be extremely honest, if you're looking for employability, so basically if your main objective is employability, cloud practitioner is not where you want to stop. So it might be a good for a very entry level or a low entry level job within the organization. But then if you want to up your chances, or if you want to actually move into a more of an associate level within the organization, then we have those associate level tracks, and it falls into the main tracks. We have the developer path, the architect path, and the system administrative path. So developers is by the name, as if you want to be into a developing path. So you start with the developer, architect is solution architect, and the system operations is around more of the admin part of the business, where you're going to be controlling the administrative part or the system operations part of it. These are a little bit more of a dive deep, so they're a bit more, let's say, they're a bit more comprehensive than just a cloud practitioner. And ideally, it will require a 1 year experience of solving problems. Because, as I said again, it's not more of a theoretical. So it's not a matter of you attending a 3 day session onto solution architect and then immediately being able to read few white papers and so on and be able to solve the exam. The exam will have questions, and it's a multiple answer questions around real life scenarios, like what should you do if this scenario is to happen, what should you click, where should you put it, and so on. So I highly recommend that part of your training is to um, get your hands on the hands-on lab, and these are going to be part of the training provided to you. So when it comes to the ILT part of it, it's not only instructor led, where it's not only going to be a trainer who's going to be talking you through the AWS services. After each model, you will actually have access to a real life lab environment, which is basically a mock of the AWS's console, and you'll be able to practice on it. So that's one. And then if you want to take it up a notch, and if you already got your path, if you already know your role and you want to, up your skills or your accreditation, you move into the professional level, and those are basically 2 years plus requirement. And then again, they're on the DevOps, which is level 2 of a developer, or solution architect professional, which is the level 2 of the solution architect associate path. And then if you want to be a bit more specialized and, dedicate your expertise toward a certain role or a certain task, we also do have specialty tracks, which is SAP on AWS, the networking, security, data analytics, machine learning, and databases. Now, when it comes to our specialty tracks, those are not directly linked to an instructor-led offering, meaning, for example, SAP, you will not have to attend an AWS training to do so. You can just basically have a bit more of a hands-on practice on the lab or on the console, go through a few white papers, and you'll be able to take this app on AWS. But however, when it comes to, I think, data analytics, security, machine learning, and databases, similarly with the DevOps, architecting, and those other tracks, there is multiple different ILT offerings that you can take to facilitate your journey. And then I don't really want to go a lot when it comes to the educational program, because this is more geared towards the organization kind of a presentation. And I think this is where I'm going to end it. So I'm going to stop it over here, and do let me know if you have any questions. I I guess no questions. I answered everyone's perfectly.
Thank you very much, Sarah. If you have any questions, please write it in the Q&A box, and it will definitely be answered. Okay, there's one question here from Abraham. So can one take the specialty exams without the other certifications?
Yes, you can. So the beauty of it as well, I think a few years ago, we removed the prerequisite. So it all really depends on your level of knowledge and how confident are you by taking the professional. So definitely you can just straight ahead go into the advanced level without having to take class practitioner or the associate level.
Right. Thank you very much. Another question. For the instructor-led AWS courses, are there physical centers here in Nigeria where we can attend the classes?
I'll let you, OJ, answer that.
OJ?
I don't think OJ is on at the moment, so I'll
Oh, okay.
take that. So if you're referring to the ones that we run, CIL Academy runs, no, we're not going to be having physical classrooms in Nigeria just yet. And I don't know if Amazon, Sarah, I don't know if Amazon has plans to run actual physical classrooms in Nigeria, but we certainly are
I
not
would
running
recommend
physical ones yet.
you as a partner. I think the question was more around if you're able to deliver
Yeah,
that training for them. So yeah, exactly. So you can
we
go through the partner. So yeah, so they can be directly done through you.
okay. So we don't have plans of a physical classroom yet. Most of our instructor led will be through virtual classrooms, but that would change over time, and we'll communicate that change across to all our students or members of the academy. I hope that answers your question.
I think it should answer Victor's question. In addition to what Blessing is saying, yes, we do not have it yet, but there will be some instructor-led trainings physically, some will be virtually. Just keep up with us and you will get to know which ones are happening and when, or at some point in the course of the year. So you know which one you want to take physically, and the ones that would hold virtually.
I'll add to that. So yes, please do work with the team. We want to support our partners. So basically, the beauty of having our partner deliver the training is that they have the capabilities, they have the flexibility. The pricing component will be way more flexible, and they'll be able to basically localize it to the way that you want it. So stay in touch with them, harass them about their needs, because the more needs that they have on the ground, the more inclined to run more sessions physically in Nigeria. So it's all based on the demand that they can obtain.
Thank you very
And I
much,
see a
Sarah.
question around certification. So certification costs the same worldwide because we don't really run them through AWS. It's being done by a third-party vendor. For a CPE, which is class practitioner, is $100. For associate, I think it can go up to 150 to 200, ranging to 300 when it comes to the advanced. When it comes to the students, so if you do training through your partner, so basically if you're doing the training right now with the CIL Academy, we can offer them some form of a discount on the exam vouchers, also on the fee for the class, because we do consider it part of our social impact. So basically, when you work with students, these are not commercial, and we do understand the financial, lack of financial capabilities when it comes to that audience. So we have different co-investment that we can co-invest with the partner, but you have to go through a partner to be able to obtain the discount.
Apologies there. I had to step away briefly. Sarah, I did you have a question for me?
The question was basically, when are you planning to run training in Nigeria? You have
Okay,
some demand
so
now.
well, there's a lot of work that the team is doing to that effect. So we've actually got a few dates. I think you've seen a mail thread with Tiara around this. So we've got a few dates that we've penciled in for cloud practitioner, and also the solution architect classroom virtual trainings, instructor-led trainings. But we're also looking to add a few more from from the instructor-led training list of courses. But again, it's also something we have to do based on the volume of demand we have. That's what's going to determine which areas we can deliver the courses in. But as you can see, this cohort is very eager to have those courses, and they're very eager
I
to
like
learn.
them, yes.
So I expect that we might have to bring forward some of the plans that we have already.
Dear. And then I see another question around the certification. Yes, there's an expiry of 3 years, and the reason why is because, again, like everything else is technology change, and it does evolve. So we want to stay as relevant and up to date with the actual change in the technologies. So it does have a 3 years expiry date.
Yes, Sarah, with permission, I totally agree with that one. I recall trying to take one of my exams where I was in a class and the trainer was just talking about a concept and said, "Oh, this might have changed." And he went straight to Google and looked up
Exactly.
the Amazon documentation, and it turns out that that change had just happened that morning. So these things move very fast and change very fast. So 3 years is a good time to refresh to make sure you're still on the front edge of everything.
Million
Thank you very
percent.
much.
And actually, as an individual, it's what makes you a bit more relevant and a bit more of, more valuable to the job market because they do look for more up-to-date certified individuals. So when it comes to that, I did see a question around internship. So I'm not sure if there's an AWS internship, but we basically promote everything online through Amazon Jobs, and it's an online process. So do keep an eye on that link. So if you just Google Amazon Jobs and then you filter to the countries, you might see if there's any career opportunity. But then again, we do have plenty of partners like technology or solution provider partners on the ground. And those can be basically a main ideal employer because they work very closely with AWS and they are looking to upskill.
Thank you very much, Sarah, that session. I see some questions from people from Ghana, Kenya. I'd like to quickly answer that. The trainings are not just in Nigeria, they're across West Africa. So you would all benefit from it. Juwon, over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sarah. Again, it's good to have you here. All right.
Thank you, everyone, and good luck with the rest of the program.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Bye. Thanks. Okay. I'm sure that was a good one. Just in case you probably feeling like, how has it been so far? We just had someone from AWS speak to us, and there was a lot of valuable things that were said, and some of them we have already foreseen, and some of them we want you to be the one that hear it from them directly, but mostly it's to motivate you on this journey yourself. And we're going to be having another guest speaker speak to us very soon. But let's do some quick keeping or skipping before that starts. Okay. Just a bit of recap, guys. Every session, both morning and afternoon, is very, very important. You're expected to drop in at every session. And then, just like we've been doing already, you don't need to raise your hand again at this point if you were in the morning session. But just in case you're not in the morning session, if you have any question or need any clarification, just use the Q&A session part of the. If you're using your mobile, there's a particular place it's located. Very, very on your PC, it's quite easy. Just at the top left, you see attendees, you see Q&A and polls, or depending on what you can see. So just drop to the Q&A section and just drop your questions there. Okay. Right. So the next speaker is Akinyele Olopade. Is from Microsoft and is going to be speaking to us as well, just like we just had Sarah spoke to us. He's going to take us through some very valuable and insightful discussion. So whatever he has for you, I really, really wish you would open your mind and get as much as you can Right. All right. Over to you, Akinele. You hear me?
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining. Okay. Over to you. All right.
Okay. Is it over to me or to somebody else? I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I feel like we've spent like 2-3 minutes of your session already, so we feel like we just hit the ground running. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Thanks so much for having me. And my name is Akinle, as has been mentioned. And for me, it's a privilege to be here. And for me, I think this is a very good opportunity for some of you guys that have not been in the tech world or to break into the tech world. And I was just thinking this morning that I wish I had this kind of opportunity some years back. Maybe I would have gone much more further than where I am today, but we still bless God for where I am. So briefly about myself, I studied electronics, electrical engineering from Lautech. And right from there, myself and a few friends knew what we were going to do by the time we left school. And because when we left school in those days was the boom of anybody going into the banking industry. And quite a lot of our mates actually went to the banking industry because that was the easiest sector to step into. Once you pass the entrance exam, the rest is history. But some of us decided we wanted to go to the tech world, and then you need to have some skills, some certifications and things like that. I remember I was sent to Sokoto to serve, and during those period, it was CCNA that was raining. So I couldn't afford to write CCNA. I couldn't afford the cost there, but I read the whole material from cover to cover. And by the time I finished, I was ready. And my first interview in a telecoms company, the guy was asking me some things about the OSI layer. Was asking me to reference it to SS7, which is what is used in the telecoms industry. By the time I finished, the guy asked me a question again, said, but you said you did not write this certification. How are you able to break this down and explain? I said, I've read it and this and that. So why am I starting with this story? You guys are here, and I'm sure you've taken out of the numerous people, millions of people outside there, you've taken one very good step, and that good step is attending a workshop or a training like this. And for me, that's sometimes some of the extra steps that you might take that might set you apart. Because apart from your degree, your qualifications, everything, there are some extra steps, some extra candles you need to burn that will always set you apart. And for me, this has always been the defining in my whole career. I started my career with Huawei technologies. Most of us know them now. In those days, they were not so common or not a household name. Then moved to Ericsson. Then from there, in Ericsson, I was privileged to work with quite a lot of operators in Nigeria, telecoms operators. So in fact, it's virtually no telecom operator you mentioned that I've not had one or two to do with them. Then I moved to Airtel. I spent about 6 years in Airtel before I moved to UK, and then I joined Cognizant. Cognizant is a consulting firm, and basically what a consulting firm does is they sometimes might be an SI, system integration company, helps with architectural advisory. Then I recently, sometimes last year, moved to Microsoft as a cloud solution architect. So I know you guys are newbies. You are going to have quite a lot of questions and things. So I don't want to bug you so much with a lot about my history, my background, but I want to open it up for questions so that within the few time we'll have, you can easily ask questions, because these days, background is easy to check. You can go to my LinkedIn, review everything I've mentioned, but I believe it will be more impactful for you guys with the question and answer. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aki. All right, I'll be taking some questions. If you have any questions, please put it in the Q&A session. Okay, if you have any questions for Aki, please put it in Q&A session. Someone is asking, is there any provision for physical training instead of virtual? I think this question is for OJ.
Yeah, so hi everyone, and Aki, it's a pleasure to have you here. Absolute pleasure. So just so you guys know, myself and Akinyele, we go way back, back to Lautech days. So it's a pleasure to have him here. It's a pleasure for us to have the the privilege of seeing dreams come true. So ambitions becoming material and tangible. The question around the physical training, yes, we will be having in-person classroom trainings, AWS specific, and other cloud service providers in locations across Africa. So we're currently, and let me out her here, even though Bolane is directing that question to me, it's not really going to me, it's meant to go to her because she's responsible for that. So whether you're in Rwanda, whether you're in Ghana, you're in Kenya, anywhere else you are across Africa, Nigeria included, we will be rolling out in-person classroom trainings for AWS instructor-led courses that were described by Sarah. But I think we want to go back and talk to Akin. If you guys have questions for him, please just put them in the chat and he'll pick them up from there.
There's some questions for Akin. Thank you very much, OJ. Okay, Salisu is asking, I want to be a data engineer. Which step do I have to take?
Okay, so let's start from Salisu. So to be a data engineer, so you must be like somebody that wants to be able to do a little of programming, let's say things like Python, and also you must be good with data crunching, because and it's a very good field to look at now, because looking at the future and the way things are being driven now, it's based on data. So one of the steps you need to take is, first of all, finish this foundational program. And from finishing this foundational program, then you can pick up one or two data analytics stuff you want to do. But most of those data analytics run on ability to be able to run some small programs like Python, because let's say the basics of data analysis starts from the basic Microsoft Excel, but it's limited to what you can do. And you need to be able to write some code, because you might have millions of fields that you need to compress and summarize for a management meeting or a decision. So you will need some code to be able to break it down. So what I would say is start with the basics of what you are doing now first, then pick up a data analysis course and follow from there. Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. There's another question saying, what Microsoft certifications are available for cloud and data engineers?
So many. So all you just need to do is go to your browser, type Microsoft certification. Microsoft Cloud is called Azure, Azure, and then it will ask you different tracks you want to go. You want to go as an AI engineer, but like I said, the first principle for any of the cloud is to do their fundamentals, the basic one. That's going to give you a very good overview of what the platform is all about, the different names. For example, different cloud provider call their virtual machines different names. Azure is going to call it a VM, or AWS is going to call it EC2. So you need to first of all understand that, and that's the basic reason why you start with the fundamentals. Then from there, you will see the other certifications that you need to do. Some they will tell you this is the prerequisite course you need to finish before then. And to just take you to the next level question that somebody might ask is, how do I get prepared for this? And I tell you, looking at AWS or looking at Microsoft, they always have their learning material. For any certification path you choose, it's going to already list the learning materials, and most of those online learning materials are free, which you just need to read through, take your time, and that's it.
Thank you very much for that. Another question. How does one approach starting a cloud project from start to finish?
So there's no hard fact rule to that. It's just how do you start any project from start to finish. The first is any project or whatever it is, start with your project charter, or let's say what is the main reason why you want to do this project, who is sponsoring the project. Then you gather your requirements. Once you have your requirement, it tells you how big or what are the components of the project. For example, let's say the project is we want to have a new website for one of these online shopping. So you definitely know you're going to come up with some web apps, some front end development. So it's different, and like they will tell you, projects are unique. So, but you need to first of all have what do you want to do. Then once you have the plan of what you want to do, then you will know the other part will follow. I don't know if I've answered that question very well, or the person wants to be more specific in the question so that I can go in details to that.
Right. While we wait for the person to go into detail, there's a lot of questions here for you. We'll have another question. As a back-end engineer, which specialization of AWS will be more beneficial?
Okay, maybe for the AWS question, I will throw that to OJ. I'm a Microsoft person.
Yep,
All right.
thanks. I'll take that. Okay, OJ, you there? Very good.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, Bola, do you want to give me that question again?
Right. As a back-end engineer, which specialization of AWS will be more beneficial?
Okay, so Leslie said something when he was presenting earlier today, something about this back end, front end thing. Like it really it hides a lot of things, right? As a cloud engineer, you are technically in the region that people call back end. Okay, as a cloud engineer, you're in the region called back end, but it's not clear cut to just say back end, because the mindset there is application, right? You're trying to talk about application, the business logic, and the integration with the database. Sometimes you're also addressing the API layer. But if you need to be a systems engineer or a solution engineer, right, then you're looking at understanding very well roles around it, developer roles, right? So AWS developer courses. In today's world, there are very few applications that you build that would not have elements of machine learning in them. So you're also thinking about data, machine learning, AI. So there is no the tracks you have in AWS are certification based, but I don't think that is what makes you an engineer, right? Your certification validates that you have a certain level of knowledge, that you remember the some technical jargon, right? You know some definitions, you know where some controls are on the system, but being an engineer means you can solve problems, right? You can address effectively concepts around networking, around systems, around even up to operating system level issues. Solving those problems is what makes you an engineer. Being able to logically address the resolution of those problems, that's what makes you that engineer. So that is back-end engineering, or back-end is covered in cloud engineering, but does not necessarily mean back-end is only cloud engineering. I hope that makes some sense to you.
I think you've answered that question. Thank you very much, OJ. All right, I think this question is for Akin. As a cloud engineer, how valuable are you to the telecommunication industry?
Okay, so as a cloud engineer, how valuable are you to any industry is what I'm going to say. So because now what you understand by cloud first, let's look at that. And then you cannot talk about your relevance. You know, we have the traditional switch rooms or data centers where you keep your machines and everything is being run from there. Then we have the cloud providers, which are just, instead of you owning the resources yourself, you take care of the power, you take care of the networking, you are just getting compute from this set of people. And that's what everybody's moving into. So it's not just about the telecoms industry. Right before I left the telecoms industry, we've started a lot of migration away from the normal data center into some private clouds. So for me, it's the future and it's the in thing. So you are very, very relevant on a scale of 1 to 10. I would say 8, 9, or 10 over 10. It's your relevance, or you just need to be able to choose which specific aspect you are going into.
All right, thank you very much, Akin. The next question is from Joshua. Is asking, how did you move straight into cloud? Because I know the technology wasn't popular in your day. Which part of IT did you start with?
Okay, so I was more of a BSS person in the telecoms, and that's business support systems that deals with your charging, your billing, your product development. So it's more or less still a bit of an IT role, because billing is always part of IT. So one of the things I did was looking at the future and also seeing I want to transit into this new aspect, was started reading. And like OJ said, when you write some certifications, it just validates what you know. And luckily for me, we were also doing some projects during this period, and those project was migration into cloud. So I really leveraged on that, and based on those little experience and my certifications, that's one of the things that really was a lever for me into moving into cloud.
All right, thank you very much. There's a question here. Hello, Akin. I'm a data analyst trying to switch into DE. Will you start from basic data engineering?
Moving into DE, please, that abbreviation, which was, because there are so many acronyms and things out there, and I don't want to assume giving you the wrong explanation.
The person is referring to data engineering. So data analysis into data engineering.
So can you take the question again then?
Okay, I am a data analyst trying to switch into data engineering. Will you start from basic data engineering?
For me, everything starts from basics. It now depends on you being a data analyst. How much of data engineering do you know before? If you're a person that all you just know is just taking those data out, crunching them, when one of the things is when you go into any of those sites and it says you want to choose this track of certification, it's already lists some prerequisite knowledge that you should have. So when you check that and you see, oh, I'm already able to do this or do that, then you know the next track you need to take. Then if you find out that you don't have any of that, then you might have to start from the basics. But I'll tell you guys, there is nothing like always going through a shortcut. Starting from the basics helps you, it validates you and grounds you very well. Because when the going gets tough, it's those basics that are able to help you build on it. So there is no shortcut. Let's always get the basics right. If the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? So getting the foundations right helps with everything you're going to do.
All right, thank you very much. There's another question here. Hello, Akin. Good afternoon. I'm currently an undergraduate studying information and communication engineering, 4th year. And I already have my A+, N+, and CCNA certification. What do you suggest I go for next?
Very good question, but I'm not going to answer it directly. See, whatever you're going to go for next, it's always about your passion. Because people can tell you, oh, this is the in thing now. If it is not your passion and you just jump on the bandwagon, you don't see yourself performing very well there. So there are very many aspects of the tech world. Look at the best part, because you see, every job has its challenges, and it's your passion for it that will always make you to succeed. So in any field, because I've seen you have different certifications, try to start looking at what is the passion, what do I see myself doing in the future? Then that should be where you now build most of your skills.
Thank you very much. Okay. Someone is asking, which of the cloud certification is geared towards data engineering on AWS cloud? I think that's for OJ.
All right, on the AWS cloud, you've got a number of certifications, but starting with the basics. So similar to what we have on this program, everything from cloud foundation, very important. You need to understand what the global infrastructure looks like. You need to understand regions, data regions, availability zones, and stuff like that, because you need those kind of concepts when you're designing high availability and all of that. You also need everything in and around the associate track. So if you look at things like AWS developer, solution architect associate, and also the system ops, sysops associate. But then when you start to get into the specialty and the professional certifications, again, I believe that as a data engineer, you should try to get yourself AWS DevOps engineer, DevOps, and professional architect, right? So if you look at all of those things, in my own book, I'll consider them to be basic. All right, to be not basic. That makes them too simple. I'll consider them to be standard stuff you should have. But then you want to demonstrate that you're a specialist with when it comes to data engineering. Then you're looking at the database specialty. If you now start to look at, if you go a bit further, because there's very little talk of data engineering or data analysis right now without a mention of machine learning or AI. So you start to look at machine learning specialty also as an additional option. But again, stepping back, way back out of the certifications, because there's a lot of assumption out there that people get jobs based on their certifications. No, your certifications might get you an interview. It might bubble your resume to the top of the pile, but I promise you, it won't get you a job. I've been hiring engineers for the past 20 years, right? In the past 20 years, there's not been 2 months that have gone by that I've not had to hire someone, and I have never made a hire just based on their resume. I will have a conversation with you. If you're coming into an organization and you say, I am a data engineer, I'm going to ask you questions around ETL, right? Extract, transform, load. I'm going to make those questions not complex, but I'm going to make them task your real understanding. How do you understand what is data cleansing? What is deduplication, for example, right? Just something really basic. So depending on your first response, it will determine the next question I ask you. Now, that is my own personal experience hiring people. So your certifications do not necessarily determine, do not necessarily validate your knowledge. They just mean that you get the jargon, you can pass an exam, you have the basics. You know, you can speak the language. It is your skill, your ability to actually do those things. If I give you a data set and I say this data set was corrupted by a certain thing, right? So we've realized that a lot of columns have this sort of issue, right? And we've missed out some rows. Something, this has happened, that has happened. I'll tell you I'll make up a story and I'll tell you, I need you to prepare this data, all right, for us to use to train a machine learning algorithm, right? Now, what have I asked you to do? It takes your knowledge of data engineering, not your AWS or Azure or Google certifications, to be able to solve that problem. And you need to stay on the concepts, the pure concepts. Those are the things that would make or mar your career. The certifications will only help. You know, it will help you get potential interviews. It will help you start conversations, but actually knowing those things thoroughly, that's what gets you a career. That's what allows you to use it. That's what makes it useful or usable for you.
Okay, so I will say something in addition to what OJ mentioned. You know, when I started my intro, I gave an example of CCNA, not writing the CCNA exam, but getting to know and understand everything in total in it. And that's what got me my first job. So the certifications because I've seen people now, you see, you can easily go and cram dumps and pass those certifications. Yes, it might get you an interview, but it's not going to land you the job. It's your skills, your knowledge of those principles and code that is going to land you the job. So it's more of what you know, what you can do, and not what is just on your CV. So, which is very, very vital.
Thank you very much, Akin. Would have loved to take all the questions, but we have come to the end of this session. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. There's so many questions in the Q&A session, a lot of them trying to know so much on data engineering track. Like I said earlier, be patient. We're going to get there. Okay, so we're going to have data engineering 10,000 feet tomorrow. So you're going to have all your questions answered. Okay, so just put those questions in your mind and be ready. Tomorrow, you're going to get all your questions answered. And of course, this is not the end of the cloud engineering talk. So also come around. There's so many things you will learn. Like I said, it's a 6-month journey. You can't learn everything on day one. But we love the enthusiasm. Be patient. You will get there. Just be ready to put in the work, and you definitely get what you want to. Thank you very much, Akin. Thank you very much, OJ. There's a poll that is currently running. Please try to fill the poll so that we can help address every issue that you're having. Thank you very much for joining day one. We continue again tomorrow, same time. Be ready to learn. We will answer as much questions as possible. Okay, for those of you who couldn't get your questions answered today, not to worry. We continue tomorrow. We'll do our best to answer as much as we can. Joe, do you have anything for us before we go?
Yeah, you can just check my screen and see the code for this session. Okay, I'll share the morning session first for let's say 2 minutes. It's gonna be up for like 2 minutes. And I'll do the one for this session. So just have the two codes handy. So when we ask you, you're able to provide them back to us. And just like Bolanle has already said as well, just like today has been, tomorrow is going to be better. So just make sure you are present. So this is the first, this is the code for the morning session. So you want to try and get it while it's still up. It's going to be up for like 2 minutes. So I'm sure that should be enough window for everyone to grab a pen and write it down.
And also, while we're writing the code, for those of us who had questions on AWS and couldn't get your answers today, not to worry, we have more people coming from AWS in the coming days. So you will get all your questions answered.
Okay. It's gonna be the screen like 30 seconds. So how you mostly get the best out of this kind of programs is we've given you a taste now. This should be inform a lot of questions. This is probably like popping a lot of questions in your head as well. What you want to do is prior to the program tomorrow, have a list, have all the questions. You can drop some on the Slack channel. They won't like lessons very, very much available for you guys. Though it's very, very expensive, but I mean it's a very good extent. He has interest in this, and that's to your benefit. Drop some questions on the Slack channels, the one you feel like might not be answered there. Bring it to the call like this during the Q&A session. Just drop it, and we want one way or the other to be touched on, right? So that's the window for the first code. This is for the second one. Sorry. 1 second, please. Okay. 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 So this is good for this session we just finished. Try to get this down as well. Just like we did today, in case some of you are not aware, we run polls during sessions most times. Some to get a feel of how you're interacting with us, if you can see the screen, if you can hear us, and other things, just to check if we're actually communicating what we think we're delivering to you in terms of value. So try to be interacting with the polls. If you can't hear us very well, say it, and then we can try to see how much of troubleshooting we can do during the session. Okay, I really hope you guys enjoyed had a good time today. So see you guys tomorrow. Abolani, the closing goes to you.
Thank you very much for joining the session. It was good having us all here today. Keep your appetite watered. We have planning to have like more enlightening sessions. Gets better. Consistency. That's one thing you should go back today. You have to be consistent in your learning journey, and you will definitely attain that your the journey or attain the level that you're going to. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session. Please take the polls and have a good afternoon.